Microsoft Dynamics GP offers a way to handle customer and vendor refunds, leveraging both the receivables and payables management modules. A dedicated refund checks feature streamlines the process of issuing refunds to customers for overpayments or credits. A default suspense account has to be assigned in the Refund Checks setup window. When you initiate a refund check, the system creates a debit memo in Accounts Receivable and posts it to the designated suspense account. This debit memo is then applied against the customer's credit balance to reduce their outstanding credit. On the accounts payable side, a corresponding payables transaction, often a miscellaneous charge or debit memo, is created to move the refund amount from the suspense account to accounts payable, establishing that your company owes the customer a refund. Finally, a check payment is issued from accounts payable to refund the customer, clearing the outstanding payable balance. Here are the critical fields to populate. Default suspense account. This account acts as a temporary holding place for the refund amount as it transitions from customer credit balance in accounts receivable to a payable owed to the customer. Voucher description prefix. The transaction description for the invoice is created when generating refund checks. Next, voucher document number. Assigned to the AP invoices that are created during the process. Debit memo description prefix. The transaction description for the debit memos created when generating refund checks. Auto-create vendors from customers. If selected, GP will copy the information from the customer card over to a new vendor, like address, contact, etc. If this option is not selected, the new vendors will need to be manually entered. Create vendors as temporary vendors. If selected, GP will automatically assign the new vendors created during the process a status of temporary. The temporary status is usually when it is a short-term relationship. Vendors with this status are more easily deleted compared to active vendors. Integrate with EFT. If selected, the payment method for computer check batch that is created will automatically be set to EFT. Only vendors with bank information associated to their vendor card will be included in the payment batch. It is more common, however, to issue checks for this vendors due to the short-term relationship. Auto-open print payables checks. If selected, the print payables checks will automatically open once the process to create checks is completed. Default vendor class ID. If you want all the new vendors created from existing customers to have the same vendor class, either use an existing vendor class or create a new one. ID option. You will have two choices. Vendor ID equals customer ID, or vendor ID equals next default vendor ID. If this option is selected, a next default vendor ID value must be provided. GP will automatically increment this number by 1 whenever a new vendor is created. With the Create Vendor button, it populates all the demographic information from the customer to the new vendor and associates the vendor the class ID selected in the Refund Checks setup window. This must occur regardless of which option is chosen in the Create Refund field. Enter a batch ID that will be used during the Select Checks process. Create refund for specific documents. If you know the specific customers and related documents that you want to issue refund checks for, select this option and insert that customer into the section below. Credit balance customers allows you to select a range of customers. GP will display those customers within that range that currently have a credit balance. Create vendor. If no vendor is associated to the customer, the vendor ID field will be blank. In this case, click the Create Vendor button and the vendor will be created. We will show you how the Create Vendor option works in the next slide. Once you have selected all the customers you wish to include and have Create the Vendor IDs, click on the Process button to transfer the receivables credit balances to payables. Once the process of selecting the checks completes, the Print Payments window will open. If you want to generate an edit list to verify the payments, you can do so prior to printing the checks. You can process the checks as you normally would. In the Receivables Transaction Inquiry window, we can see the debit memo that was automatically created as well as the overpayment being applied. In the Payables Transaction Inquiry window, we can see the miscellaneous charge that was automatically created as well as the payment being applied. Notice in the General Ledger Detail Inquiry window, the Cash Suspense account shows both the receivables and payables transactions net to 0.